Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. So in this episode, we see a little dissension amongst the ranks when it comes to S.h.i.e.L.D. because obviously Daisy's kind of been in command subsequently since, Coulson's out of the picture right now. And because of that, obviously, Fitz and Simmons aren't too keen about how the way she's running things right now. But to be fair, because even Maze at one point, it's like, you need to kind of pull back, But for Daisy, it's like, I don't care. I need to do whatever it takes to get Coulson back. It's just like, so because she's so against trying to take over this role. So I feel like she's not handling it the way she would. To be fair, these are different circumstances. Because it's like, well, because of after Fitz's betrayal and what he did to her, obviously she's very kind of when it comes to Fitz, because she's not willing to listen to anything Simmons has to say. It's like, okay, there's a whole machine hell's got to, it's like, no, we'll go find Coulson. We can't trust Fitz. And Simmons kind of okay, because Simmons is all in her own head about, as we picked up last episode, she's kind of got the same mentality as Yo-Yo because of the whole, Deacon situation, which I love everyone's reaction. Fitz being like, you look nothing like me. I don't see the resemblance here or there. And then Yo-Yo finds out, it's like, oh. And she turns to Fitz. It's like, I'm sorry that you have a deacon. It's like, you have a deacon. That sucks. But Deacon kind of brought up something I thought was kind of interesting. Is for him, he's for Fitz, Deacon's the only person that looks at him and completely understands why he did what he did. Obviously Simmons does too, which she's kind of starting to kind of sway that way too. But Deacon in particular, because it's like, he knew what it meant. You have to do a lot of things you wouldn't want to do or should do, but it's kind of kill or be killed, especially with the world he's from. So he understands why he's actually Fitz doing that actually kind of made him feel for the first time, or actually kind of made him actually feel a little proud of Fitz, because that was something it's something that needed to be done. And it's you might not, it's kind of what, he brings up the example of the whole selling Daisy to Casais. It's well, yeah, that was kind of a sucky thing, but at the same time, it's if Daisy had done what she did, who's to say what would have happened to the rest of the people? At the time, it's Daisy thought she was doing the right thing, and at the same time, it's Deacon, yeah, he might be a little selfish, but he does care about other people too. So to be fair, you can't make the argument. It's well, whether you're really doing it for other people, or you're more so doing it for yourself. Either way, it's kind of complicated. And then there's the whole Yo-Yo and Mac thing, which feeds into that. Because I think what ultimately made Yo-Yo go, whoa, I'm not Yo, it's because Mac is yeah, it's one thing to be concerned, but it's you're telling me what to do. You're telling me, no, I'm going to keep him locked down, and you too. It's for Yo-Yo is Miss Independent. She's whoa, what you talking about me too? You ain't going to tell me what to do. You ain't my boss. You're my boyfriend. Don't act like that gives you some authority over me. Just because Yo-Yo's got in their head with the whole invincibility thing. The same thing with Simmons. That's why they're bonding, because she's she found someone else that kind of understands where she's coming from, because it's oh, everything is so set in stone in the future, so we don't have to worry about it. We're invincible type of thing. I think it also just stems from the fact that, I said, Yo-Yo is just kind of she's very stubborn, much like Mac. It's kind of how Daisy doesn't realize the way she's acting is kind of causing dissent amongst, she doesn't realize she's kind of pushing people away being where she is, especially when it comes to Simmons, who, with this newfound information about Deacon, maybe at one point in time she would have thought like Daisy, but it's because of Deacon, she's then I don't have to worry about it. Fitz is going to be fine. Obviously Deacon's never heard anything about Fitz being sick or anything like that, so it's all good, right? Which is interesting, because it's oh yeah, Simmons is kind of oh, we don't need to know too much about the future, the dangers of that and everything, which is funny considering the fact is you're relying so much on the future, thinking oh yeah, you being here means that our daughter makes it through, we make it through to have a daughter who eventually has you. But it's I don't know, it's kind of funny. It's just you don't need to know too much about the future, but you need to know what you have, now. It's just kind of interesting. It's picking and choosing about what you need to know. It's just kind of because obviously knowing a lot more about the future might make you more prepared for what's to come, but to be fair, it's more so information about our own daughter, and I guess it's kind of a situation of nah, we'll be surprised when she's born. But what really got me was that whole thing Simmons set up. At first I was kind of okay, Simmons is lying to you. I was okay, guys, oh, you're going to try and convince him by drinking all three waters. I'm okay, the trick is going to be that they're all waters, and then one of them turned out not to be the case, and I was oh man, I said, oh, so you're going to fake it? So I was okay, so this is how you're going to do it. You're going to get him, you're going to trick him in a different way than I thought. I was okay, so I thought you were going to trick him by making him go, okay, I guess I believe it. Which even that I don't think would have been enough to make Matt believe, so maybe that's what made her decide to do it. But it was ultimately a trick to kind of get him to let Fitz out so that he could save Simmons. And it turns out, like, oh yeah, like it was all fake. Even Fitz is like, wait, what? Oh, at least a little heads up, because even he didn't know what they were up to. Turns out it wasn't a complete lie, because it turns out that one of those cups wasn't water. And it's like, holy crap, you really did put your life on the line. Even Fitz was kind of like, wait, what? You were really doing that? You were really taking those chances? And that kind of cements it even more in her mind, like, oh, we're invincible. And it's just kind of like, holy crap. It's kind of like crazy that kind of, I mean, even Fitz goes, okay, it's like, oh yeah, we're all crazy. He acknowledges that he's a little crazy with what he did. And now, like, he's seeing the way Yo-Yo and Simmons are acting, and it's like, oh God, all three of us are crazy. That can't be good. Even to the point, like, Yo-Yo ended up accidentally firing the gun, just because she hasn't gotten used to her hands, which we saw that kind of early on. I was like, yeah, that's already set up for something bad much later on. Yeah, she can fight and punch with it, but it's like, I'm sure that's just going to mean that when the time comes, those arms aren't going to be as reliable as she wants them to be. It literally missed Fitz and Simmons, which I guess kind of proves the point even more. Like, oh yeah, we're going to make it through this, you know? Which is funny, because the same argument is like, well, if we die, that just means that, hey, we were able to break the cycle. But it's like, you're putting so much faith in the cycle to go through to make sure that your lives, things play out the way they do, that, oh, Yo-Yo still lives in the future, and that you guys end up eventually having a Deacon because he's your grandson. Like, it's interesting. I feel like you can't really have it both ways. You either want the cycle to continue or to break it. Like, you know, because the thing is domino effects. Just because when you break the cycle, you don't know how things might play out. Deacon might not exist in the future if you break the cycle. It might have been these exact circumstances that led to him being born. I mean, and the way Deacon's kind of talking about it, like, I mean, she threw up, so I can only assume she is pregnant, because she threw up at the end of the episode, not unless she was just stressed. But I thought that was supposed to be like, oh, she's pregnant, but she hasn't acted like it, because even Deacon was like, oh yeah, you guys have got to, you know, he's kind of grossed out by having to explain, like, basically about to say, like, they have to, like, do it to give birth to his mom so that she can eventually grow older and give birth to him. But I thought the whole point was, I thought she was already pregnant. Maybe it's just she doesn't know yet. Maybe she's all like, oh, I'm just sick. Maybe she didn't recognize it as morning sickness. All I chalk that up to is you're just lucky. But hey, that's just me. Because Mac did bring up something interesting. He's like, "Oh, you're certain about this and that about you living in the future, but who's to say I didn't die? You know, stopping you to do something bad, and that's why you're alive in the future." I mean, we're also forgetting the fact is that Yo-Yo's alive, because let's not forget she's 75 years into the future, yet she looks exactly the same. It's because Cassius would bring you back to life. So I really don't count that as like oh, you survived. I count that as like, well, they bring you back every so often just to use you, and then like they let you die and then bring you back again. That's how I interpret that. Like, I don't consider that living. I don't count that as like I win, I survived this. Like, I don't know. But Yo-Yo is just kind of in that position where it's just I guess she needs something to latch onto. She needs some hope, because I think maybe on some level she doesn't think things will work out, so she needs to hope on something. And the fact is, maybe this is much like Max trying to protect her in her own way. She's trying to protect him too, because she knows he wasn't there in the future, so she can only hope to kind of mediate that by keeping him locked up and kind of settling things. So they're off to kind of deal with the whole machine situation, while we have Daisy and May and Deacon all going to go get Robin. And that's some very interesting circumstances, because she's not talking to anyone. She's not drawing, even when Daisy talks to her. But it turns out the reason why is because one of the last things she drew was her death in the future. And then all of a sudden she walks forward and she sees May and calls her mom. I'm like, wait, what? Why are you? And it's like, she's like, I told you Flint would get you home. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, right. You do see the future and everything. So obviously even that well, she did see her death, and her death is connected to May. So she probably got parts of the conversation. Being younger, she probably can see things a lot more clearer than she could when she was older. It still probably hits her in waves, but it's probably a lot more crystal clear as a younger self. And it's something I think I was kind of idiotic about, because I was thinking like, okay, so Ruby's actually seeing two timelines at the same time. I was thinking that was kind of the thing. Maybe it is, but now I'm kind of realizing it's like, no, Ruby's seeing the future that's there. Like, the future she sees won't change until they change the timeline. Until then, everything is still kind of on par with everything. Probably like, because we don't know the exact details of how everything went down. So, for example, everything right now could still be leading to where that future led to anyway, you know? So that's the whole worry in itself. But it's so, to me, I think that's so depressing because you have literally Ruby's not talking to her mom, and she walks up and hugs May and calls her mom. It's like that's got to be a punch in the gut because even Daisy didn't explain the drawing that showed Robin dying. She didn't even explain it to her mom. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know what that is, even though she knows exactly what it is. They didn't even try to explain the situation to Robin's mom because that would be admitting like, oh yeah, you do die. Which Robin's mom is like, well, I know I do because like I'm not in any of those drawings. So if anything happens, I mean, it's like nothing's going to happen. But once again, time seems like it's heading in the direction of like things are still going to play out the way they're supposed to. And in 75, leading to the future they saw in the future. So. But it also seems like Coulson will die too. It's kind of what Robin's kind of got set in mode. She's like, they're gonna try and change the future and everything, but like she says, Coulson will die, and it's like, and the way May was like, oh no, we can save him. It kind of looked like Robin wasn't so sure because once again, Yo-Yo said it herself. Trying to save Coulson is where things went wrong. Now, like I brought it up last episode, I interpreted it as this. That the fact is Daisy trying to go save him now, not necessarily saving him from the whole dying situation. The fact of the matter is Daisy's going to where he is, which we know he's with Hill and Ruby in that whole situation. So I think that's more what it was meant to be interpreted as, not like a necessarily, well, it could also be interpreted as trying to save him from like his body dying once again, but that's a thing in itself. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of feel like it's more of a literal sense saving him, but not in the body literal sense saving him, more like coming to his rescue under these circumstances. But ultimately we'll have to wait and see about that. I kind of feel like these might be the circumstances where her mom might die. I don't know, it feels like that's coming up fairly soon enough, but that's still gotta be a little awkward because you have your mom there and you also have the lady who's like your mom, so because it wasn't too far in the future that May was taking care of her and she was still referring to her as mom and everything, which, like I said, it's got to be a little conflicting because it's like you see the future where she's your mom and all the time you spent together and how much she cared it for you and took care of you, but you also have your mom here, but you also, because also that's got to suck too because it's like, this mom right here beside you is going to die and the one that's going to be with you is May, so it's just, it leaves you conflicted on so many levels, which... That's the most depressing thing about that situation, knowing the future and all that. And then finally, there's everything that takes place with Hell. Obviously, she wants Creole to absorb the gravitonium. It's more of a test run because I was like, are you trying to test it to see? Well, I mean, she's trying to test it to see if it's okay for Ruby. I'm not going, like I said, in her own way, she does care about her daughter because it's like, okay, I'm not going to let you test anything untested. So until we really have the machine, since we don't have the machine, let's test it out first as gravitonium. And I completely don't remember any of the stuff they were showing, like the dude that like got sucked into it and the whole thing with that vision. I don't remember that one bit. So that's kind of doesn't ring a bell to me. Like I'm sure that's early seasons, but nevertheless, Creo ended up kind of going after Coulson because of the whole like gravitonium in him. And I also love the fact is that Coulson was so pissed because he's like, really, literally, you're taking everything from me. You even took my Captain Crunch. He's like, really, that's the saddest part. You took my Captain Crunch from me. That's the thing I'm most bothered by, that you did that. Just kind of trying to slowly punish Coulson. Coulson's not that easy to break. Once again, they don't know about it, but Coulson's in his current situation, so it doesn't, it's that situation of bothered by death, but at the same time not too bothered by it. But in fact, it matters. Hale wants him still alive because it's like she wants to join forces with him. That whole thing we learned about last episode. But Creole helps him escape because he finds out about Talbot, which Talbot's not in his right mind. Kind of talking loud. He's like, you need to use the inside voice. This is my inside voice. Okay, let's use softer than your inside voice then. It's really sad to see him like that, but it's like there's still some semblance of his mental state still being somewhat intact because it's like, oh, I want to go see my wife and child. So, because Creole was kind of lied to as well because it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to take care of Talbot, fix him up. That's kind of what they think. And he's still under the impression that it really was it was a robot by S.h.i.e.L.D. Rather than the whole LMD situation that led to Talbot getting shot in the head, which even, Hale realized, even she admitted to Talbot, like, yeah, that's most likely how things played out, but still. Fortunately, Talbot and Coulson were able to escape, but you have Creole staying back to keep Ruby busy. Now, what's interesting is learning about Ruby. It kind of went back to my mind of like why she's so obsessed with Daisy and stuff like that. Because I think legitimately, it is the fact is that Daisy is probably like the biggest competition she'll find on Earth. Because there's probably very few people more powerful than Daisy. Like she's like I said, once again I could be misquoting this. I know like in humans in general wise, it's Black Bolt that's the most powerful. But I think Quake's on that level of at least known in humans, she's the most powerful. Like I could have sworn that was kind of the thing that was known about her. Like I could have sworn they said that in the earlier seasons, but I could be like completely wrong about it. But Ruby just wants to prove herself. She's like, I've literally been working at this for my entire life. The gravitonium is going to be mine. I will be the destroyer of worlds. It's like, wow, you were really like, you probably, I think on some level she's thinking just like hell that, Coulson's just being crazy. But the moment finding out that Daisy might potentially get it, it's like, no. Like, I think that's even why she went after Daisy. So he was so interested and fascinated with Daisy before, like I said, just because it's like, oh, you're the competition. You're the greatest proof of just how much of a strong warrior I am. Especially when it comes to the fact is that, now Daisy's potential competition to get the gravitonium. So, which is interesting because I did catch, even though I tried to avoid it, I couldn't help but catch a bit of it, the next preview in the corner of my eye that, because obviously like where Coulson and Talbot ended up is where, Robin's drawing is taking them. So it's the same area. So Ruby, I'm going to keep doing it because I did that before. I'm going to keep doing it again. I apologize. Ruby's coming after them, so that means we're going to get that clash between Daisy and Ruby, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. I am curious because it does seem like she still got her whole situation with, isn't it Alex? Strucker's kid, isn't his name Alex? Because she did say that, like, oh, like, she had her plans of taking stuff from her mom. Like, it's like, oh, that they're going to start their own team, which I don't know if that's 100% true. I mean, it's hard to say whether she just used, it was all part of her mom's plan, but, maybe on some level, like, telling that was the truth as well, because maybe when she frees, because maybe becoming the destroyer of worlds means not also accepting her destiny, but also breaking the shackles that bind her in her mind. Maybe she feels like her mom is holding her back and she's trying to break free of that, but she can't break free until she gets what she wants, and that's the power she gets. But it seems like that gravitonium situation won't work out the way we would think it was, because at the end we get a jump, like we get a flashback to Reina. That completely got off guard. I was like, oh, Roof Nigga. I was like, oh my God, Reina, holy shit. And like, if you've forgotten, Reina's been dead since like season 2. She died. Did she die like at the tail end of season 2? Nevertheless, because I completely let that slip my mind, because I remember recently bringing that up in the conversation. It might have been the podcast and video wise, but the whole like aspect of Reina being able to see the future and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it was this because I was referencing the fact that she saw Ultron and stuff like that. Yet I completely still, even though I was thinking that, completely let slip my mind. I was like, right, Reina could see the future too. Obviously, like her power. It's been a while, so I don't remember how her future seeing manifested. Was it by touching people? I know Robin's dad worked like that. Maybe that's also why, like, Robin didn't let Daisy touch her, because the moment Daisy touched her, she probably saw a whole bunch, probably saw what Daisy would do. But nevertheless, it seems like the gravitonium is actually alive, it's sentient, because it eats that dude. Like, Reina was setting up that whole situation. Like, I can only assume this is back when she was working. I mean, she wasn't an Inhuman yet. She was obviously human, so this is back when she was working with wasn't that who she was working with the whole time? Was Daisy's dad, or wasn't she working for Hydra too? God, like I said, it's been such a long time. Like I said, as the show showed, that was like 4 years ago, basically. I'm like, well, 3 to 4 years ago. So it's like, I'm trying to remember, like, what the hell that, like, who her allegiances were to. I know it was mainly to herself, but still. Maybe it was both Hydra, and I definitely know she was working with Daisy's dad at one point in time, but I can't remember if it was always. I think she tried to get a meeting with Daisy's dad and ended up working with him afterwards, after they finally met. Nevertheless. So who was she working for at that point in time? I would assume Hydra. But, because whoever the dude is that got sucked into the gravitonium, that's who Creo was getting his memories from. So is it like, the moment he fused with it, has it become the consciousness for it, or the gravitonium itself has any other consciousness? I assume it's his consciousness, so he's there inside of it. And so he's absorbing other people, becoming stronger. And that's kind of the point I was bringing up about no matter who wins the gravitonium, whether it's Daisy or whether it's Ruby, it's neither one of them is going to win, because I can only assume things can't play out the way they do because the gravitonium absorbs them or takes over their bodies, whichever way. I guess because of Creel having the others kind of pulling him away, he wasn't completely absorbed. Or maybe it's because of gravitonium, like, and maybe just because of the nature of Creel's whole abilities and stuff like that, it made it impossible for it to kind of digest him. So Ruby or Daisy might be next on the meal, so ultimately we'll kind of have to wait and see what goes on with that. Find out what that whole situation's about. Because it could be a situation of Daisy fighting back because, like, the gravitonium kind of takes control of her under whatever circumstances, or maybe it completely takes control of Ruby. And, the fact is, the last time we see Daisy, it's out, like, she's getting outside of, like, a Quinjet, it seemed like. So I kind of I interpret that as maybe, I don't know, it could be her possessed, turning against S.h.i.e.L.D., or it could be her being like, okay, I got to do this alone. I have to be the one to take down Ruby. Because either way, she can mold gravitonium, so she's the only one to be able to stop it if it completely absorbed Ruby, or Ruby completely absorbs it and becomes gravitonium itself. With her Quake ability as an Inhuman, she's like the best weapon against gravitonium to kind of shape it and, fight against it. So, like I said, ultimately we'll have to wait and see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good